Hello everybody and welcome to a prediction. This time it's Akuma versus Shao Kahn. I'm very excited for this. Do you want to say hello? Say hello.
Hi,
That's not hello,
Cyber
that's
is
hi.
lurking in the background. We have Cyber too.
He's not going to say anything.
He's not
Maybe.
saying anything, but he's there. He's there.
Just know that you watching this right now, Cyber is right behind you. And when you turn around, he will be gone. But know that he was there. Be afraid. So yes, I am joined by Ninten, also known by a bunch of other names, including the guy who did that one calc in that one Iron Maiden related video I did. That's him!
I did do that.
He did do that. It was, as it turns out, technically completely irrelevant, but I'm glad he did, because I did not realize that Eddie would just be a son every now and again, which kind of makes the door star level calc meaningless, but it's a cool calc to have, so thank you for that.
Akuma versus Kahn. Cool, right? That's very cool.
I am not a huge fan of this matchup, but I do really like Akuma, and I like Khan sometimes. So
Oh, I like Shao Kahn. I think personally he's one of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters.
I
I think that
love
Akuma versus Kahn.
I love pre retcon Khan, or I guess pre time pre Netherrealm Khan. I'm not too heavy
Well,
on
what about
Netherrealm.
MK9?
MK9 Khan's a fucking idiot. Like, okay. Just to go on a tangent about the writing of MK9 for a moment. So, Shao Kahn, right? Some of the first things he does, Kitana goes up to him, and she tells him, "Wow, Shang Tsung's making clones of me." And Shao Kahn just immediately tells her everything, which puts her on the enemy side. You know, as if he can't brainwash people and make her think, no, that never happened. Never happened. Stay on my side. No. No, he just tells her. He's just like,
Well done, sorcerer. You were never my daughter. I killed your father, and your mother. Ooh, she killed herself. I'm big scary.
and then Kitana goes on the enemy side, and look how that fucks him over in MK11. Oops! But then also the whole plan with the Sindel thing, which was initially his plan in the original timeline, it's Quan Chi's plan now. Yeah, Khan just isn't smart enough to figure that out himself. And also, he just kills Kung Lao when he didn't really need to. Like, in that second tournament, Goro was still there. He hadn't fought in the second tournament, and he was still under Khan's command. He could have just thrown Goro at Kung Lao, and Kung Lao was tired from just having fought Quan Chi, Shang Tsung, and Kintaro. I really doubt he would have been able to take on Goro at that point, after all that. That well he would have done it without having to get himself involved. And like, I mean, if that had happened, Liu Kang probably wouldn't have like gone to a flying rage about it. Shao Kahn's just an idiot. Like, he's just an idiot in 2011. Like, he could be worse. He could be MK11 Khan, but he's still a fucking moron in 2011. At least he looks cool though. I'll give Khan that. He's got a cool design. I really like the helmet. That was
Yeah,
my
I kind of like I like the MK11 design a little bit too. I probably talk. I have some things to say about MK11 eventually, but for Akuma versus Kahn, I think that the connections aren't that thematic, but I think that the fight dynamic itself is going to be pretty cool in my opinion.
I get it for like the rivalry. I do like the MK11 design as well. I'm not a fan of the leather. I don't like the leather on it, but I like the overall look. I think it's cool. Even though I'm not a fan of how that game doesn't have like really individualized character models. They all use like the same base pretty much. It's like man, woman, muscular man. That's a little bothersome, but that's not like a fault on the design. That's a fault on the modeling team and the generally low effort that went into making base models for characters. But yeah, MK11 design's fine. I think the fight will be good if they don't portray Khan the way he's portrayed in most media. Because like in most media, Khan is this really slow, really dumb hammer swing guy. But like the way he's described is probably would match Akuma a lot better. Like actually knowing how to fight.
Yeah, I think that they'll do Kahn well.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll butcher him.
I think Defenders of the Realm Kahn is one of the closest to matching Akuma, because in Defenders of the Realm, somehow is probably when he's at his fastest in terms of like actually doing martial arts properly, and that's Defenders of the Realm. So, did you actually look into that for any of your Mortal Kombat stuff?
Oh, I looked into a couple of the other media, but I wasn't able to get through them all quick enough because I didn't think that Akuma vs. Khan would happen right now. I thought that
So,
it would be chorus episode.
I have seen Defenders of the Realm. The most notable things, there's a feat where Raiden electrocutes a mountain and like or a volcano and causes it to erupt. This is like like just regular Raiden. There's nothing going on here, and there's an episode where they like cross over with this orb from several other series, and I think Raiden like takes a hit from it, and later on, in the following episode with the orb in another show, it's revealed to be able to destroy whole planets. So I think there is solid planet level Raiden from that cartoon, if you want to go with that.
Oh yeah, well, if you want to go with like tertiary material, there's like the Brazilian comic where Raiden and Fujin said punch with the force of the Big Bang.
Brazilian Raiden versus Thor. They both hit with the force of a Big Bang. That's what we should have gotten. I like how with that context, it just sounds like I made up Brazilian Raiden as a character. So yeah, do we want to talk about like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat first? Because I feel like Street Fighter is easier to get out of the way.
Yeah, let's talk about Akuma first.
Yeah, Akuma has like all the best feats on his own for the most part. It's like Akuma.
Yeah, well, expect the big feat for Akuma to be E Honda.
I mean, they could do that. That feat gets like city, right?
It gets Ireland.
It gets island. last time I saw the calc, it got city. Okay. So yeah, there's that feat where what is it? Hakan throws Honda at like a meteor or something. Am I close?
Yeah, there were a lot of meteor feats in Street Fighter actually.
There's the feat where he like punches the ground and like makes that spiral into the air. In was that Street Fighter 4? I want to say. What was that? Is that the one that gets like island level? Is his ground punch?
Oh, you mean the volcano one?
Yeah.
Right.
The one where like you see the effects of it go off into space.
Wait. So I think I might be thinking of something different, but yeah, that gets 18 gigatons.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. Is that the highest he can get with cannon, like just pure cannon material?
Well, no, he could get a little bit higher. Like, I think one of the different feats got to 24 gigatons.
Yeah, that's still island.
Oh yeah. If you want to use Mike Hag, no, I don't want to talk about Mike Hagar yet. Just save that for later. But you can get pretty high stuff with the final fight arguments.
Yeah, what do you mean later? Like, when else are we going to bring it up than when we're talking about Akuma? I mean, the chances are that they're just going to stick with the island punch or the energy beam from the forest. Like, it's going to be one of those, I would imagine, that they're going to use. I can't imagine they're going to go much. I don't think that we're going to get tons of Hagar scaling. We might get it for speed. Maybe. But I don't think we're gonna get. I can't see them bringing up. Oh, there was this time Mike Hagar made like this explosion visible from the Earth, like space, looking down at Earth. I can't imagine they're gonna do that when like Akuma has all of these like just raw feats on his own. They'll probably just go with that, you know.
Yeah, I think that they might use the Shin Akuma meteor feat, even though it's like very much not canon, just because it would put him on a more similar or not similar, but like some kind of wavelength with whatever they would probably put a Kahn at.
Let's be honest. It'll probably Cetrion.
Yeah, it is. They've done some pretty big AP gaps this season too, though, so that they might not even do
Did
that.
you see what they did for fucking Reverse Flash versus Goku Black? Where like they bring up, oh, so the size of the DC universe, right? It is so much bigger. There is a huge gap here. No, don't even try to compare them, okay? And like, that's a pretty big gap. And like there was the whole thing with like King Mickey and Yoda, where the number they put on screen is like the multiplier they gave for King Mickey's power compared to Yoda's is different from the number they put on screen and actually much bigger. Which amuses me. But you know, it's not like anyone, especially anyone in this call, really cared about debating that matchup at all.
Since I guess we're talking about Mike Hagar anyways, do you want to talk about that right now?
Well, I'm not super knowledgeable. I just know Final Fight is canon, generally canon to Street Fighter. The characters show up from Final Fight. The Hagar is not one of them, to my knowledge. I don't think he's, outside of an Udon comic, or no, 2 Udon comics at least, I don't think he's really interacted with Street Fighter much.
No, other characters in Final Fight do appear in Street Fighter.
Yeah, other characters do. Hagar's only appeared in one Udon comic where he appears at the very end. I don't remember who it was that called him to help. And he appears in another Udon comic where he fucking bodies Zangief. Just straight bodies him with no effort. Which does kind of throw that whole death battle into question. But that's Season 1 death battle, so who cares? That death battle also claimed that one advantage Zangief had was a lack of political agenda. So, you know, I still love that. That's so stupid. But you probably know more about Hagar, so you can go ahead with that.
Well, the arguments being used for the reason why Hagar is even part of the discussion to begin with is because one of Hagar's defeats involved him. You can probably show it, but one of his attacks is pile driving, but I don't know how else to explain it, but he just exits the Earth, then comes back down, and that was calculated at faster than light. And there is one statement from one of the manuals. I don't have the scan here, but I remember seeing it saying that one of his moves did move at the speed of light.
Yeah, like a clothesline or something. Moves at like the speed of light. I think Cyber posted some arguments against stuff like that, which I'll have to scroll up to look for. But right. The country level feat of Hagar pile driving comes from Final Fight Revenge, which has an original plot, which that sounds accurate to my knowledge. And the Lightspeed statement comes from an American manual of Mighty Final Fight, which is a chibi adaptation of Final Fight 1. And Final Fight Revenge has apparently some contradictions with canon, with Belga being an undead zombie, and then he's just completely alive in Street Fighter 5. Just completely fine. So that's like the basic argument against it, which does seem solid. But then we are comparing, keeping in mind that this is a discussion about Street Fighter vs. Mortal Kombat, and if we really wanted to get into things that contradict themselves, Mortal Kombat has a lot more of that than Street Fighter does. But yeah, I do get the argument against it as well.
Well, my main problem with the Final Fight stuff right now is that it's cross-continuity scaling. I don't think that this Belcher is the same as the one from the Final Fight because of the reasons you just said. So to scale Akuma to the Mike Hagar Lightspeed stuff, you would need to do cross-continuity scaling. And if you do that for Street Fighter, well, MK vs. DC exists.
Okay, no, hold on, no, okay, about that. Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. So, the whole point of that game is the power fluctuation going on from the merger of realms, right? So, literally, you cannot even meme scale with that. Aside from if you, for some reason, say that the power fluctuation was not happening when the characters beat Dark Kahn, but I mean, I would say it was. Dark Kahn's the only character with any meaningful scaling in that game, and that's because he's Dark Kahn. But let's just say that Marvel vs. Capcom scaling is
No, Nemesis, No, Nemesis, you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying that because Akuma could only scale to Hagar by assuming that the Belcher has the same stats as within Final Fight, that means that you would also use cross continuity scaling for Mortal Kombat vs. DC to their comic.
No, there's power fluctuation going on there. Their powers are fluctuating. There is actually a way to do it though, because in Mortal Kombat 11 they reference Sub-Zero in Injustice, so you could get Sub-Zero scaling to Injustice, and if you really, really want to push it, thus you could say Scorpion scaling to Trigon in his ending in Injustice would work too. So, I mean, if you really want to push it, there is that argument to be made that you could scale Mortal Kombat to Trigon, which I wouldn't do. But if you wanted to be a shithead, you could. What level's Trigon at anyway? Like, generally he's accepted as, like, outer?
I don't know what is going on with Trigon canon-wise, but like just in with Injustice stuff, I think there was a large plant level feat for Injustice.
Yeah,
which would just make him the same thing.
Superman shoves Mogo into the sun, and I feel like even though you can't calc that because it's FTL kinetic energy, that's probably a very impressive feat that he could create an impact that would destroy a planet, but he himself would be completely unharmed by it. You know, that's probably quite impressive, I'd say. Shut up, Cyber. Shut up. Yeah. Okay, look. Superman
you have to mention
in Injustice,
because
in Injustice, the actual game, Superman just brazenly overpowers a Yellow Lantern ring with no effort. 2 of them, in fact. He just effortlessly does it. And this is admittedly Prime Superman, not Regime Superman. But he still does it. He still does it with no problem. So, the yellow ring probably didn't amp him as much as it might seem. Or at least, the yellow ring amp would not be as impressive as just where Superman ends up by Injustice. Like the game itself. So, shut up, you. Who's not talking. Coward.
Oh no, I just remembered why I didn't want to talk about Mike Hagar yet, because the speed argument is part of the discussion right here. Because of, the Raging Demon.
Yeah. We'll get to how the stats
So I want to
compare
talk about that
afterwards.
after. Oops.
This is where we talk about Mortal Kombat stats. I mean, we could talk about hacks.
Okay, goody.
Hold on. Akuma hacks. The Raging Demon is the main one. Did anyone actually probably look into whether the soul hacks is a thing in the games? Because I know there was question about that was going on.
Okay, so according to the original translation, the Raging Demon destroys the life force instead of the soul for people who don't know. And there's been a lot of discussion about that. Usually life force just means the soul, by definition. But if you really wanted to argue that it does mean... for Death Battle, because they're using the Udon comics. It's the media guide they have given out. And in the Udon comics, it does refer to the soul specifically.
Soul BFR? What does that mean?
So I'm going to break my rule. It's more like...
Oh no! It's Challenger! It's Cyber! He's appeared.
So it's more like in Udon, the few times it's used, it could be argued that it's just... invokes the kill aspect, right? But the soul is sent to the afterlife. And then canonically in Udon, that's basically Makai.
So I just had to hum the Pokemon battle theme while Cyber was here, regardless. I should also bring up that in the Assassin's Fist miniseries, which is officially licensed, they directly state that the Satsui no Hado could destroy Goku's soul. So if we want to use tertiary material in Assassin's Fist, it's just outright stated that the Satsui no Hado would destroy Akuma's soul if he doesn't master it properly. So there is some soul destroying shit there too. I just wanted to bring that up as probably the only person here who's watched all of that series. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that got awkward real quick.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat scaling. I will just quickly say the only shit I know to give Ninten a point of reference for my knowledge. I know Raiden and Shao Kahn shake the core of the planet in Mortal Kombat 3, the ending of something like that. I don't know, I think it was 3.
Yeah.
They shake the core of the planet.
Yeah. The Radiant's ending, they do shake the planet. Though it specifically says the core of the planet, which is really weird because you can't shake just the core. But
Yeah,
if you did want to do that, it would get like island level. If not, and just assumed it shook the entire planet, then it would be in country level.
It's really
territory.
weird because Raiden's supposed to be depowered because of the merger, but then they just brought him back in a later release of MK3 and just completely ignored that aspect of his character. The good old god of useless part. Anyway, I know of that feat. I know there's arguments for realm merging, which you're probably going to go into later. There is... what is it? Yeah, Cetrion's feat, where she becomes Big Mama and shoots a laser, which is much bigger when you get the shot from space than when it actually hits. I don't know why...
Oh, can I talk about the Cetrion thing for a second?
Yes.
Because there is something a little interesting about that if you wanted to go into how that translates to Shao Kahn, because in Mortal Kombat 9, Shao Kahn survived a blast and actually just laughed it off from
all
Raiden when he was powering out by all the Elder Gods. The Cetrion thing was calculated to be 30 kilotons at least, so you could use that as a 7 times multiplier for Shao Kahn, and in Armageddon, when he gets Blaze's power, which is canon, it said that he gets a 10 times power increase, so that would be a 7 times multiplier, and that would increase him to 2 kilotons if you wanted to use the Cetrion calc as a base for his power. So I think he does get a little bit higher than that.
Yeah. So there is a Cetrion one, and I do not like that fatality, and it has nothing to do with the Versa stuff. It's completely got to do with the fact that she fires a gigantic laser, which then when it cuts back down to Earth is tiny, is absolutely tiny. I hate that. But there's that. And there's probably some argument to be made with the Kamidogu, which completely changed between games and the comics as to what they were. But this is Mortal Kombat, consistency is for babies. And for speed, I know there are arguments for Kano and Raiden timing. And also Cabal. Please, don't use Cabal, Death Battle. I don't want to hear anything about no fucking cables. I don't want to hear anything about fucking Raiden's suicide. Don't want to hear that shit. Don't need to hear about no fucking boat. Don't need to hear that. Just give me the proper shit. None of that Goro nonsense where they spat out every single related feat to Mortal Kombat there ever was. But only the low-end shit. Don't need that.
I'm going to break my rule for the second time, and probably the last. I would also recommend you add on a little section going on as to why fatalities are usable, since I've seen a lot of peeps say that either, like, what if ending, or more importantly, like, fatalities are, like, completely non-canon, which, doesn't seem to line up with what we know, but I'll leave that up to you.
So Devora does a fatality on Baraka in MKX, and it is one of her fatalities. So there's that, which directly shows the fatality being canon.
Yeah, I think that the fatality not being canon statement was more just like how Johnny Cage and Cassie Cage would act like complete psychopaths during their fatalities. I think it was more just talking about that than their actual abilities.
They're not canon in terms of the character aspect of some of them, you know, in spite of the fact that Mortal Kombat barely has character. But most characters wouldn't be doing stuff like that. But they physically could do shit like that. So...
Yeah, also, like, fatalities is, like, that's literally what Mortal Kombat is known for. I don't think you should just exclude that entire thing. That sounds really cheap to me.
Yeah, that's especially like the start of MK9. Like you can see a lot of kills, some of which like match up with the way some fatalities turn out across the series. So like probably a bunch of classic and MK9 fatalities happened during the Battle of Armageddon in that timeline, and you can see the results. So you got to be very selective. Like no, Cetrion specifically is non-canon because I don't want Mortal Kombat to be this powerful. would be the argument.
Yeah.
But like, nah. I don't think saying fatalities are non-canon would be a particularly good argument. But Nemesis, the bridge.
Oh no, the bridge! No! Don't talk about the bridge. No. Please don't bring up the bridge.
Sorry, Nintendo, you can talk about the bridge, seeing as you're so opposed to it. Go on.
No, I don't want, no, Okay, in Mortal Kombat 11, I think Sub-Zero says that Cetron is struggling to hold up a bridge. It's taxing her power or whatever. I don't care. It's dumb. I don't care about it.
It's a really big bridge.
Yeah, bridge. The bridge level.
Don't forget bullets.
Yes. The Ed Boon, I think, was its statement. Or was it Ed Boon or was it John Tobias? I think it was Ed Boon, right?
No, it was Ed Boon. Yeah, it was Ed Boon.
With the bullets. Which is supported in canon by Johnny Cage being injured by a bullet that one time, and Cassie being injured by a bullet, which is probably a worse argument because she gets shot in the arm by a minigun round and does not lose her arm, which is very impressive. But bullshit. Bullshit. Especially for Shao Kahn.
Oh, we were talking about speed. I think we were talking about speed, right?
No, I was just
okay,
laying out.
I think that's
I was laying out my knowledge. Which is why this is where you can go in and talk about all the stuff that you've been looking into. Now that you know my baseline knowledge and what you can avoid talking about.
Okay, so I think for speed, the episode will probably just give Shao Kahn like lightning reacting from people like Shinnok and Quan Chi reacting to Raiden's lightning moving in tandem with it. I think it's probably what they're going to go with for. But in the Setron Fatality, again, she is actually moving at 26,000 times the speed of sound, so that could be usable. And no, it is usable. There are also a couple of light speed things you can argue. Like, for example, Kano's eye laser, it's directed call the laser multiple times. In one of the MK9 endings, it's called an optical laser implant, and it consistently shows qualities like a laser, like it goes in straight path, it's heat-based, and all that stuff. So you could argue they move in tandem with that. There's also cool stuff. And in Mortal Kombat 9, in one of the cutscenes, actually, Sonya blocks this flash of light from Raiden. You could also argue that could count as something for speed. And if you wanted to use it in... Technically, Blaze has a counter energy to Armageddon in Mortal Kombat Armageddon that is supposed to destroy all of the realms, which means the universe. It says in Blaze's ending that it actually starts in the Edenian crater and stretches out, which implies movement and speed by that, if you want to argue. It scales to his attack speed. That could get MFTO of some form.
Alright. But now we can move on to the part that makes speed a complete non-factor in the fight.
AP, let me look at my big thing.
My big pause. That was the worst time for you to pause, Nintendo.
Okay, so I wanna talk about how the realms in Mortal Kombat work before talking about the realm merging. So the way they work is back before everything existed, the Elder Gods had a war against the One Being, and
it was above the Titans.
Using the without the Titans. They used the Kamidogu to split the One Being into the. It also splits the universe into several fractions of the universe called the realms. So, that makes it that the realms should be larger than a planet because, like, they're actually fractal parts from the universe, and by merging all the realms together, which is shown sometimes, like in Deception, Onaga planned to use the Kamidogus to merge all the realms together to get the power of the One Being, and Shinnok did that in Mortal Kombat X to reawaken the One Being. That shows that the realms in general should not be planets, because if they were planets, that just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't like talking about stuff like this in, like, vocal.
I mean, there is one medium that has them as planets, but it's not really relevant. It's the spoilers, the latest film.
Yeah, actually, Yeah, Battle of the Realms. I want to talk about Battle of the Realms because seeing that movie and how they merged the realms together, that made me more convinced that it is not how it works because it looks really dumb.
Looks really dumb. Something being really dumb in Mortal Kombat. Now, Nintendo, surely you jest.
I mean, that film continuity isn't necessarily even canon to begin with.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not canon.
It's canon
made
to
by
its own
totally
little
different
bubble.
people.
I mean, you could use the really stupid argument that it's one of the timelines that Chronica reset, but if you argue that, then you should just shut the fuck up and never talk about Mortal Kombat ever again.
No, nothing says that at all. Like,
There are people who generally
no.
think that every like Mortal Kombat adaptation is canon because of the Chronica resetting stupid ass plot twist, and they're like, no, it's all canon. It's just that Chronica reset, and like they include Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, which just makes me wonder if they know that characters like Green Lantern would not be affected by a timeline reset, and he would just shrug it off. Like I don't think people realize that, and they're trying to argue this.
Also, speaking of that, I guess there is Dominic Sincero. He said in an interview that
Giancholo.
Mortal Kombat versus DC is canon
Yeah,
because of Chronica's reset.
yeah, I know. I hate that.
It's
That's
canon now.
fucking stupid.
It doesn't work in continuity at all, but it's canon now.
No, and no, like how is she resetting stuff related to like the Rock of Eternity? Like that's beyond space and time. How is she supposed to reset that? How is she supposed to reset that shit? When fucking who was it? Was it Liu Kang who became Shazam in one of those endings? How is she supposed to reset that? I don't think she can do shit to that. He's still gonna be Shazam. But then whoever expected Dominic and Sean to know anything about Mortal Kombat?
He's a writer now.
They can't
so,
even
like,
figure out what the hell a Kahn is. That's such a simple thing. They can't even figure that out. They couldn't even have Scorpion say his family's name properly in the damn comic.
Anyways, Ed Boon in his interview also said that realms should be larger than a solar system. Well, he asked if you could leave the solar system and still be an Earth realm, and he said yes, you can. So realms should be at least solar system in size. That works better with the whole thing about realms.
Why would it be called Earth
like
realm if it
fractions
was
of the
just
universe,
Earth?
and how merging all the realms together would recreate the universe? That makes much more sense, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be called Earth realm if it was just Earth then, because it would just be called Earth, wouldn't it? It would just be Earth, like.
Anyways, Shao Kahn merging the realms that would make them at least it make it at least a solar system level feat is what I'm saying, and he sustains these realms because in Mortal Kombat 3 when he dies, the realms themselves become like unmerged by it.
Yeah.
There's also more supporting evidence for scaling to the merger itself, like in Fidel's Mortal Kombat 9 ending. She's able to dissolve the sorcery that holds the realms of Outworld and Edenia together. And in Tara's Dead Alliance ending, she destroys this orb that is meant to hold the realms together, and then the orb explodes with all of its energy, and it knocks Tara out, but she survives that. That can also be used to support it for realm energy. And in Mortal Kombat X, in Shinnok's ending, he actually merges all of the realms together, which would be it should be a universal feat then, right?
Yes, because he's putting the one being back together, and the one being represents the universe.
Yeah, he's basically merging all of the parts of the universe back together.
What a dumb shit. He's just brought the one being back. Oops. I mean, that's probably what he wants, but like that's so stupid.
Yeah, it is. He wanted to just destroy everything. That's always been his goal, because he doesn't like...
Go, one being. Destroy them all. One being just looks at Shinnok and just... Done. Shinnok's dead. Then they like imagine if that's what they did in MKX. They just let him win again, and the one being just eats Shinnok, and then they just throw the Kamidogus at the one being until it splits up again. Could you imagine if that's how it ended?
So speaking of the Kamidogu, in Deception, Shujinko uses the power of all of the combatants to destroy each of the split up Kamidogu. So you could argue Shao Kahn downscaled from that, since he needed their power in order to actually do that.
Fuck, what a segue. That was a good segue.
It was.
Do you have any notes on, like, scaling directly to Elder Gods, like the Elder Gods together fighting the one being?
Well, technically, we don't have very much context for that, but it did say that the Elder Gods waged a war against the One Being, and they used their own power to power the Kamidogu, which split apart the One Being into the different realms. I'm not sure if you would like to use that scaling or not, but they did do that.
Curious if you like found
the Kamidogu.
I was curious if you just found anything that would like put that on the table as opposed to just like off, on its stool nearby.
Aside from just saying that the other gods are as powerful as the Kamidogu, not really.
All right.
Unless you want to use Battle of the Realms.
No. Though, I mean, if we're talking about the scaling to Elder Gods, probably bring up why Kahn would scale to Cetrion. That's not going to be very complex.
Oh, well, I just explained it earlier, didn't I? In Mortal Kombat 9, Shao Kahn survived
I mean, like,
from Radiant Amp.
Because, like, I was thinking more from just MK11, because, like, MK11 Kahn would scale to Cetrion, and that's before he noticed the realms.
Oh, yeah, he should be comparable to Sindel, who, like, beat up Cetrion while she was amped, by the way. She has that red thing when Sindel fought her, so she was stronger than she would be otherwise.
Yeah. And, obviously the amp that Sindel got from Shang Tsung was an amp given by Kahn, so he probably scales above it. If he could just take that power out of Tsung and put it into Sindel, he probably is more powerful than that amp. So if you would argue that Sindel was amped the whole time by Tsung's power, he would just upscale from that anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of that, I heard of an argument for normal top tiers scaling to like the high Chronica stuff. Which I should mention, by the way, it's just like in Shao Kahn's own ending with the crown, he merged billions of diamonds together. The argument for Kahn scaling that normally would be because the crown is powered by the Well of Souls, which Shang Tsung normally uses as his power source, and since Shao Kahn would scale to that, he would just backscale from him being amped. It's weird. I wouldn't rely on it, but
I think it's weird because Shang Tsung with the crown, Shang Tsung like takes out Kahn and Sindel simultaneously with like no effort. So, like Tsung with the crown was able to destroy them with ease. So I don't know how much I would buy into that scaling.
Well, before that, he did absorb Radiant and Fujin souls before fighting Kahn and Sindel.
Yeah, but still, the crown was probably giving most of the amp anyway. Because, like, Fujin and Raiden are not Elder Gods. I mean, according to the game, they're demigods, but they're not that either.
No.
I hate MK11's insistent that Fujin and Raiden are demigods, as if they're, like, the same as Rain, when they're not. That's just stupid.
Oh, do you want to talk about Armageddon now?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, you are headlining this. This is, like, you put a lot of work into this. I want to give you the chance to, like, talk it. Like, what do you want to talk about?
So in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, because of the combatants fighting each other, they end up growing in power to a point where it would create this event, which was called Armageddon, which would just destroy all of the realms simultaneously. And Blaze, the final boss guy of Armageddon, when people defeat Blaze in their endings, they get some pretty unique feats and abilities. I should talk about that. And Shao Kahn did defeat Blaze canonically, by the way. It's shown in Mortal Kombat 9. I have this big list of everything notable from the Armageddon endings. Let me look here. Yeah, Smoke. Yeah, when in Smoke's ending, he turned into a big, like, fog of smoke that consumed the entirety of the realm of Edenia.
What?
Realm into... So, Smoke with Blaze's ending, Blaze's power, he turns into, like, this big mass of smoke and gas that just consumes the entirety of the Edenian realm.
Wow.
And he turns it into his own consciousness. In Fujin's ending, he uses Blaze's power to create a new realm from the fraction destroyed ones. I think what's important to note here is it said, well, Fujin created a singular realm out of the destroyed ones before, so I don't think it's like just rebuilding the realms as they were. He was explicitly creating an entirely new one. that was separate from all the separate ones. Let me look here. In Kai's ending, Kai's ending is weird. He becomes psychically linked with the one being, and that kind of implies that he has the same state of consciousness as the one being is. Like, he was just conscious throughout all of the realms and became omnipresent.
Yeah, but no one likes
like the one being. Nah.
You mentioned smoke. Mentioned smoke. I'm reminded of those. I think it was Smoke, and I can't remember who else it was. They had the joke ending of like blowing up the Earth. I think in like earlier
fatality.
MK
That's just that's just Smoke's fatality in MK3. I think he just blows up the planet along with himself. What a boss! What an absolute unit.
In Radiant's ending, he just destroys all the realms.
No, yeah,
because
it's Dark Raiden.
Yeah. In Shiva's ending, so that she laid waste to every realm. In Frost's ending, she froze over every realm. And
anyone calc that? Like, if you go with the assumption that the realms are all solar system size, you could probably calc that, like freezing all of them out of just the ones we know. Which is like what, 6 realms?
I think that there were 11 confirmed realms, but there was a statement from Havoc. It's on the wiki. I have not found it yet. I am looking for it. There's a statement that Havoc said that there are thousands of realms out there. I'm still looking for that.
I mean, yeah, you probably couldn't count that. I mean, you probably could anyway if you just assumed baseline of 1,000. But someone should get somebody to calc that. I feel like that could be like the most interesting freezing calc result.
In Havoc's ending, I really like this one. He used Blaze's power to rip, tear, and reshape the entire universe into like his own image of chaos and whatever, and became completely unrecognizable. I think this is a really good feat to showcase that like Blaze's power is indeed universal in scale. And in Shao Kahn's ending, he just merged every realm into Outworld. That's just a universal feat right there. And also, do you think that Shao Kahn should get Blaze's powers and abilities in the fight?
I don't think he should, but I think you could argue, like, for scaling purposes, he should get it, like, the scaling.
I think the simplest thing to do would just say that he canonically beat Blaze, or at least scales to Blaze's AP.
Because, like, all those feats happen through Blaze's power, which he would obviously have to.
Right, and then, like, he at least downscaled. Like, it took, what, all of the other gods, correct me if I'm wrong, to beat him MK9, right? And he survives at least attacks from them initially. You could argue a downscale argument there, or at least that would heavily support him being at least relative to a singular, if not above a singular Elder God.
And, like, Daven and Tagon both were, like, stated to be able to beat Blaze. And obviously Shao Kahn scales above them, because they're just demigods. And, like, Raiden's above them.
And they're dead.
And they're dead. Yeah. Well, actually, we don't know.
Yeah, Shao Kahn won Armageddon.
We don't actually know if they're dead, because we never see their corpses, and there's no confirmation. So for all we know, after one of them beat Blaze, Kahn just didn't kill him. He just grabbed him, just tossed him like off the pyramid, and knocked him out. That is possible, but he scales above.
They didn't win Armageddon.
No, I'm just saying, like, he could have just battered them away and like not bothered to kill them because he was too focused on getting the power first. So that could have been the thing. He was just gonna bash in Raiden's skull and then be like,
Dagon, you're next,
and crack his skull open. Who knows? He scales above them regardless.
Wouldn't that? I think that also opens up another problem, like, arguing against it. Like, that would imply that another character, probably relative to his tier, beat Blaze, so he'd still scale.
Yeah. Like, if you go with the popular theory that Kahn just beat up Onaga and then waited it out, he would still have to beat someone who just got a Blaze amp to get the power anyway. So, you know, or like someone who just beat Blaze. At the same time, you could also bring up the fact that he would have had to beat Onaga in a one-on-one, based on how he went in the Armageddon intro. He would have had to just fight Onaga one-on-one and beat him. Which is, I want to say that's fairly impressive, because Onaga's not a pushover.
Yeah, Onaga survived the suicide blast from Raiden, which is multi-city block.
Oh,
it's like 200 tons of TNT. Yeah, I know.
The only way to properly test it is to put a certain ghost in the center. Not saying who.
What if the ghost just flies away with its wings?
I wonder who he's talking about. I thought it was kind of funny how in Armageddon they kind of built up Taven throughout the entire course of the game to be the one to defeat Blaze, and then came 9. Shao
Nope.
Kahn just wins. Okay, so I think that is most of the things. Let me check. I think that's most of the important things I want to talk about here. I'm not finished with the doc yet. When I do, you'll probably see it on the. If I'm able to make a verdict, I'll put on the G1 blog probably.
I think like there's a lot of stuff there for Universal, at least like top tiers.
Yeah, I think that Chinook's MKX ending is probably the best thing to use from Universal MK. I was not prepared for this at all. I didn't think that we would be doing this so early. And I'm not really good at explaining feats verbally.
I think you
so
did
look
pretty
out
well.
for the,
I think you get my thumbs up. You did pretty good. Don't worry.
Yeah, so look out for that blog if I'm able to actually put it in there. If not, then it'll probably still be pretty cool. So anyways, Akuma versus Kahn. Who wins, Nemesis? What is your verdict? Who do you predict?
I think Shao Kahn's gonna cave Akuma's goddamn fucking skull in like 1,000 times over. I think it's gonna end with Shao Kahn doing Johnny Cage's fatality, where he uppercuts the head off your body 3 times in a row. That's how it's gonna go. That's about the gist of it. Yeah, you can probably bring up the argument for why the Raging Demon won't do shit too.
Oh yeah, so like Immortals and Gods in Mortal Kombat, which includes Shao Kahn, Onaga said that he had the same role as Raiden in Deception, and there is also other text saying that he is the same species as Raiden. Like Shao Kahn is just generally immortal. They are able to resist having their souls destroyed while being inside the Netherrealm, so that's just resistance to soul hacks right there. There is a life force argument. I don't really. A life force argument I think is pretty arbitrary. You can argue about that, but there are references in Mortal Kombat to life force being in the same context as soul, so it doesn't really matter. And even beyond all that, I think it would probably just be a known limits fallacy because Shao Kahn's strength directly comes from all the souls that he has absorbed. Like, souls in Mortal Kombat are kind of a power source. That's where he gets his energy from.
Yeah.
So I don't think Kuma will be able to destroy that at all.
You could probably make a meme argument that in MK11, Liu Kang survives getting his soul sucked out. Like, just as a human, he survives getting his soul sucked out by Shang Tsung. Well, not by Shang Tsung, by Revenant Liu Kang. You could probably... You'd make that argument if you really wanted.
Yeah, and like even the whole Raging Demon. Oh, hi, Cyber.
You're gonna go with the Raging Demon. You could argue the I believe it was Alpha 2. I might be mistaken. The raw translation, right? Like it's like kind of similar, I guess, to the penance there, like using your own evil deeds against you, like your own evil actions. If you interpret it that way, I guess the soul protection isn't necessarily necessary. You could interpret it as something like death hacks. Shao Kahn like resist something like that.
That specifically, no, he's never resisted the penance there, but I don't. I don't.
I'm trying to think. Is there any instance of that? No, I don't think so.
Not as potent as that. Obviously not as potent like the actual.
Close you can get is that there is like a layer of the Netherrealm that is like that. It gets so deep that it just like becomes something like that. If you want to make an argument like that, but then I don't think Kahn's ever been that deep in the Netherrealm before. I don't think anyone has aside from Shinnok. And probably Quan Chi. But,
yeah, all this assumes that Akuma is going to be faster than Shao Kahn, which I do not really agree with. Even if you use the Mike Hagar light speed.
My perspective is something along the lines of probably going to be treated as somewhat relative in speed, or at least in the same kind of like bracket of speed. Let's say they go.
Oh yeah,
with
did we talk?
Go ahead.
Did we even talk about like Akuma's higher speed stuff? I don't remember.
I mean, Hagar was mentioned. I believe there's some other speed feats.
Besides Hagar.
Yeah, we could go over his other speed feats right here. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Bison moving in tandem with the satellite laser got Mach 5000. Mach 4000 to Mach 5000 are usually those results that you get from that. And his Hadoukens reach space, which gets into the Mach 1000s as well, like Mach 1000. So he's usually around.
Checked the blog is like Mach 1200 for the Hadoukens and Mach 5600 for Bison.
Yeah, that's still lower than Cetron's Mach 26,000 if you want to use those lower stats. If you want to use light speed, then Kahn has that too, and even like they're more plentiful for Kahn, and he has potentially MSTL stuff as well. So I don't really think Akuma's going to be faster than him.
I just don't think it matters. Like, because, like, the Raging Demon, you need, like, Akuma's soul hacks would not be as potent as, like, someone like Shang Tsung. And it takes someone like Shang Tsung to soul hacks Kahn, right? And Tsung's soul hacks is significantly higher than Akuma's. And when you take that away, Akuma's really just got AP. And he's not doing shit. To, like, even the lower end of Kahn is not being damaged by Akuma at all. So,
I mean, could Akuma even survive? Like, do you remember 9? Like, Kahn removes Shang's, like,
nah.
I think he removes his soul.
Oh, I forgot to talk about one other thing. In Nightwolf's Mortal Kombat 9 ending, if you were to argue that the Raging Demon attacks the life force, not the soul, if you were to go with that interpretation, then that kind of is a double-edged sword, because in Nightwolf's Mortal Kombat 9 ending, Shao Kahn existed as a soul, and he possessed the Great Spirit, and kind of turned the Great Spirit into himself through transmutation. And Nightwolf was able to exist within the Netherrealm as well, so he also has soul hacks resistance, and he bypassed that.
Mortal Kombat should really stop talking about the Great Spirit as if it's not a religious figure that's still believed in by thousands of people in the world. They should just stop talking about the Great Spirit. It's just going to end.
I mean, we could just turn this into a Shaman King discussion.
Well, I'm just saying that the Great Spirit, and the way they sometimes describe it, and they refer to it as a her as well, is apparently really offensive to certain beliefs. So maybe they should just stop talking about the Great Spirit. I mean, I get a bit uncomfortable when I see certain interpretations of the Buddha, so I kind of get that, like, how that would be a bit uncomfortable for some people. I think they should stop.
That's definitely fair.
Like, I really don't like, I haven't read Record of Ragnarok, but I've heard that Buddha fights in it, and that just pisses me off, because that is so antithetical to the point of a Buddha. It spits in the face of what a Buddha is meant to be. Like, Buddhas never fight. That goes against the whole thing, right? Like, that bothers me. So I could imagine that there are people who believe in the Great Spirit to be bothered by, like, the way they talk about it sometimes. But
I haven't gotten to that point of Record of Ragnarok yet.
I haven't read it. I just heard people say the Buddha fights, and like maybe they're wrong, maybe they're lying, but
No, I'm not lying.
Saber, have you read it?
I'm caught up to date.
Is it Buddha Gautama? I'm assuming it's Gautama. Would be like the most obvious Buddha to go with.
Well, it's more like you kind of have to read it for yourself. It's an interesting take on the Buddha itself, but I don't think it with what you just described, right? Your issues with, like, I guess, modern day interpretations, or maybe just in general other interpretations. I don't think you'd probably like this interpretation.
I'm just not a fan. It sounds more like a Bodhisattva to me, but like it's yet to find enlightenment. Because like it's not always
he has
bad.
found. That's the thing, though. He has found enlightenment. Enlightenment for him was kind of like, the way they depict it is weird though, because like he achieves enlightenment, and then he starts wearing glasses, and his getup is. I mean, Record of Ragnarok designs obviously are not one-to-one with like most interpretations. Maybe Zeus or something would be closer, but definitely not his like transformations per se. But I did have a question. So this is not related to this. It's one more thing related to Shao Kahn and Akuma's like hacks. So if you interpret it the Udon way, that is kind of like kills by sending the soul to Makai. Is there a way that like I guess like it would be like this? Sure, he has like a stock of souls, right? Like a huge stock, but couldn't you just interpret that maybe like it selectively targets Shao Kahn's own soul, and then like BFRs it, sends it to like the afterlife? Would like Shao Kahn have a way to resist it?
Kahn can travel between realms.
Okay, so like the way that soul hacks works in Netherrealm is that they actually tear your soul apart from your body.
Yeah.
And it traps it in the Netherrealm while your body becomes like a soulless beast. So that I guess you can interpret that as him resisting his soul being taken from his body, because they are actually separated within the Netherrealm.
which is something that bothers me about how when Kahn hits Liu Kang's leg, it affects Revenant Liu Kang. No, he's in a different body to his original one. It's not the same body. Revenant Liu Kang's body is not the same one he used to have. We even see when Quan Chi's making a Revenant Johnny Cage, he's making a new body for him.
Time travel is really fucking weird in MK11. I don't like it at all.
It goes by looper logic. Like, you damage someone, and the effects appear on their current future form without any consideration for how they got to that point at all.
Yeah, it's like stupid. I don't care much about that.
But regardless, Khan can just open portals between realms. Like, considering all of his powers are derived from his soul, it'd be a bit hilarious to say that his soul on its own lacks the ability to do that when that's where all of his powers derive from. So he really just... Yeah, didn't you say like he possessed the Great Spirit or something as a soul? So he can clearly still use his abilities as a soul.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you use the Udon interpretation, it gives Akuma a moment of a W before Khan just shows back up and just goes back into his body. He's like, what was that? And, yeah.
What else is there to talk about?
Khan has other hacks that would work on Akuma. Like if you were to say that Akuma can resist Khan's soul hacks, Khan can still like mind wipe him and brainwash him like he did with Kitana and Sindel. So.
No, I wouldn't know.
Does Akuma resist that?
Not to my knowledge. I think that his soul hacks should just work because it is like planetary in range and layers and
it works on Shang
and all that junk. Yeah.
And like it works on characters who can resist the soul hacks of the Netherrealm. So that's just like it.
Yeah, can't you just be able to absorb Akuma?
Yeah, and if you would like that kind of gets rid of the whole argument of Akuma could stop Necalli from eating his soul. Necalli's never shown to have like any sort of layers to it.
Yeah, that's true. Can't just be able to use planet-wide soul absorption AoE and eat his soul. That's really all there is to it. Akuma can't damage him, and you have to be really generous in order to get him to be faster than him. And even then, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to say that he could actually kill him anyways.
Well, this does remind me of an argument
easier to stay convinced.
You know when Akuma says die 1,000 deaths? Someone said that means he actually kills the opponent's soul 1,000 times, so he would just run through Shao Kahn's soul reserves with that. That's an argument I heard once.
Oh yeah, his soul reserves. I love the soul reserves. Akuma's going to in the fight Shao Kahn destroy all his soul reserves like DOG to Alucard. Yes, that's wonderful, lovely.
What I'm hearing here is it doesn't matter if you buy like Universal or Planet. Shao Kahn needs one blow. If they go with that, honestly, I think Planet's fine. Like at least that, right? He just literally needs one hit, and even if he's slower, he also just soul haxes him to death, and pretty much has everything covered to survive the Raging Demon. Literally, Akuma only has one move that can be potentially argued as a win con. And nothing else. Literally, the only thing I can think of is just giving him his botched scaling to Azura's Wrath, and trying to. The problem with that one is it's not even like universal. He only scales to like Mantra Asura. Is like, I think is like best is like you can if you use like the. Okay, so there's like a book right released for like the official works. It states that like the giant like. This soul container thingy that was like has a laser. I forget the name of it, but it's like this giant station they have in space, right? And it shows it being like the Earth is like almost the size of like a small pimple on it or something, maybe slightly bigger. But like visually in the game, it's not that like it's much smaller. The station. You could argue budget restraints is why it's not as big as it is in like the official works. But if you go with like if you pixel scale the official works to that. And then, like, Asura would scale to that via beating, like, the thing that was controlling it and powered by it. I think you could probably get him to, like, I think it was, like, small star? Or, star level? At most, in that form, right? And, I mean, only stalemated that form for, like, 500 years, so... If you give that botched cross-scaling, it would be star level.
But then you might as well just buy Universal Kahn at that point. Like you might as well. It's more
Not
fair.
even universal. Like even solar system should be enough at that point.
Yeah, like from just like a single realm. You did say that Kahn's like soul hacks is like planetary in range as well, which would imply that even if Akuma was faster, Kahn could just AoE soul hacks.
Akuma's gonna jump across planets to escape his solar
Okay.
portion.
It really sounds like the only way Shao Kahn loses is if you pile up the anti-feats, like stuff like bullets and maybe he's lost a katana, stuff like that, and then you don't really do the same for Akuma.
If you favor Akuma.
Yeah, if you do
At
everything in Akuma's favor and do nothing for Shao Kahn, then yeah, Akuma could win.
So if you give him
I
like
would-
say, trying to think of the highest you can give him legitimately. There's there's the cross scaling with the meteor feat from that like Capcom game that isn't canon. I think that was done by Shin Akuma. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And there's like Gil's meteor feat, which is slightly contentious, but was calced to like multi-continental and Udon. I think you can argue Akuma scales to him, at least maybe like after he like kills Jeddah or harms Jeddah. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good thing to discuss. So one thing I'd like to add, since we're talking Universal, for like Mortal Kombat as a possibility. So Jeddah from Darkstalkers, as part of like the crossover that's canonical to Udon, right, has this feat that like made a universe. Well, kind of implied to be like a universe from his own essence or his own body. Like, problem is, even if you argue that like his AP is that level, I don't think his durability scales at all. Like, none of the characters can like survive his attacks, and like if you do that, I think like Chun-Li managed to get a hit on him and make her like universal as well, which is not consistent in Udon at all. Like the reason I don't think it scales to his durability is that he's like a living pile of blood. Like he's changed his physiology to shapeshift, right? By like literally having himself almost as a living piece of blood. It's like when he gets hurt in the comics, right? It's like he disperses as blood. They had to use like a weapon, if I recall, in the comics, that, like was specifically tailored to harm, if I recall. It was like a blade. And Akuma used like a conjunction of that alongside of his own power. But otherwise, they were kind of getting trashed. Oh, and Gil had to help finish off him in the first place, like finish off Jeddah. So yeah, it's really contentious if that's even like applicable for Akuma's scaling, and even worse to like try and argue that Jeddah is actually universal in AP.
I think the problem is if you were to stats equalize Akuma and Kahn, Kahn just wins. So like you need Akuma to have that sort of a stat advantage to win, because like he's never going to win if he doesn't have a significant one. Because like even like Khan's also like way more experienced and should be way more skilled. So like he basically takes every category except for potentially speed.
And you might be able to argue that the way they're presented visually with skill, and this is kind of NetherRealm's fault, would more so lean to Akuma, just visually, right? I agree with you that like we're going like the amount of time they've been combatants. Yeah. Definitely Shao Kahn would be the one with the more experience.
Yeah, like how many realms has he?
Wouldn't you argue something along the combination of like he hasn't physically? I mean, he does eventually physically start doing things himself, right? But he spent multiple like generations not going personally to the Mortal Kombat tournament, right?
Well,
and
that's true, but we see like, in the MKX comic that he did physically appear, like he did go outright to Kotal's realm, the realm of the Oshtek, and he took that, and he was physically there. But at the same time, that scene also shows Goro with him, which doesn't make any sense because Goro showed up during the feud with Earthrealm. So you could just take that as an inconsistency. But I mean, that's up to you. But he does show up there, and he probably did personally go to Edenia because he personally killed King Jared. I do not care what Devorah says. I do not care what Sindel says. Since like MK3, it was Kahn who killed Jared. He physically did go to Edenia, but we don't know if he went to like Zaturnus or anything like that, or Viturnus and Zatera. We don't know if he went to those, I guess. But that is a point. He probably didn't personally fight in most of those, but Well, oh, then again, he was also the enforcer for Onaga, so during Onaga's reign, so he probably did do a lot of fighting there when he was working for Onaga. Nintendo, do you have anything to add on that? Like, is there any better example of Kahn physically fighting in those years?
I was gonna say the only other
not
counterexample.
really. His role was supposed to be like.
Well, the only other thing I can think of is like an anti-feat for skill, and it's not really an anti-feat for skill. I've unironically seen people argue this, that he had to quote unquote poison Onaga to beat Onaga in the past. That proves he's not like a skillful fighter, and I don't know. That sounds that he has.
That's dumb.
That's bullshit.
Dumb.
That's just the fact
I know.
At the time, he would not be able to beat Onaga. But then we know from MK9 he would have had to beat Onaga because of how the intro to Armageddon went. He would have had to be able to beat Onaga to even win prior to MK9. So, problem. I see a problem with that argument.
Yeah, it just sounds like overall this is in Kahn's favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Does Akuma have any regen?
Sorry?
Does Akuma have any regeneration?
I don't think so.
Oh, not anything normal enough to matter here.
No.
And I'm trying to think outside the box here. Is there any...
Regen.
Well, his regen takes time, but
Still,
I was
it's
thinking...
better than nothing.
Yeah, I was thinking, though, is there anything we can extrapolate from, like, Evil Ryu, or maybe Kage, as much as I don't like... I'm sorry, but something derivative of the Satsui no Hado that we could extrapolate, like, abilities that Akuma might have? Is there anything they have?
If it comes from Johnny Kage, I don't want it to be there at all.
Okay, fine. Evil Ryu, then.
I can't think. I mean, you could say that he has that aura that stop bullets from like even touching him, because like the bullets don't even look like they physically touch him in that bit. They look like they just sort of redirect away from him. But that's not gonna help. Kahn's only range stuff is completely irrelevant when he can just cave Akuma's head in with a hammer. So that doesn't help much. I'm really trying to think. I can't.
What about teleportation? I think they have like short range teleportation, arguably. At least in some movesets.
But then Kahn has longer range teleportation. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
They can just make. He can just make portals between realms, so he can literally teleport between realms. That's better than anything Akuma's got. There's a lot of awkward silences as we try to think of anything for Akuma here.
He's probably more agile. He's got more agility.
If you were to compare their fighting styles,
Dexterity.
Akuma is look, the thing is, right, that Kahn's always portrayed as a brainless fighter, so you could argue that even though he is technically more skilled, the way he fights is less good.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing up earlier about, like, visually.
Yeah.
Akuma is, like, gonna always be...
Yeah, Akuma...
considered the more skilled.
Akuma in series is, like, supposed to be this all-powerful martial arts in the person, and Kahn isn't really depicted that same way. In his best scene, in his best depiction, he's just shown as being, like, really intimidating and powerful, but not, like, the martial arts, god that Akuma is depicted as.
He's the embodiment of the revert to monkey meme.
He does know several, different styles of fighting, and
if you go with how he plays in like
stuff.
some of the 3D era games, namely in Armageddon, where like a lot of characters have like the very similar animations, he does sort of have that sort of Akuma style of fighting in gameplay. If you want to go with that, that's probably the best showing, even if it's not in any cutscenes really. Because like in Armageddon's intro, he's pretty mindless when he attacks Shang Tsung. And Shang wins, so that's pretty based.
I guess the last thing was something I forgot to bring up earlier. At the very beginning of this, you mentioned the core shaking, right? I've seen people argue that's hyperbolic. Kind of like, there's like a similar thing. Go ahead.
Well, like, I don't think it matters. It's pretty consistent with everything else that the God series have done in MK, so, like...
I wouldn't
Nice,
necessarily
totally
disagree with you. There's like, I think the best comparison I can think of is like, there's a Devil May Cry statement that like, Urizen 5 in the English version can shake the foundations of the world, right? And then like, that very much can be hyperbolic because that's like an expression. I mean, like change. It also doesn't help. It doesn't exist like the original Japanese version, right? This is a bit different. Don't have to deal with translation issues with Mortal Kombat. I mean, except maybe the Brazilian comics.
I honestly just don't think it
The
matters.
Brazilian translations are what saves the Shao Kahn.
Imagine if it just turns like. Could you imagine if, like, there was like Ed Boon or Dominic Chancholo just like came out and talked about all these feats? They went, no, they're all bunk actually. This is what we actually meant, and it turns out that the best Shao Kahn actually gets would be like like multi-city block. Could you imagine if that's what happens right after the episode comes out?
Well, I'm assuming at least on like some forums, probably gonna have like Shao Kahn. It depends, right? Because like if there's a lot, it depends on what you go with, right? If you're heavy on like word of God, the whole bullet statement, right? I could see like forums are having, I guess Akuma as the winner, but take everything collectively. I really think Kahn just stands above.
I think this is bordering on a stomp, honestly. Like there's really nothing Akuma has, unless you want to argue speed, which doesn't matter because Kahn is just so much stronger, resists everything, and short of Akuma leaping off to another planet, he's not getting away from that soul hacks. Like
there is one thing I can think of. There's a highballed calc for the non-canon Shin Akuma feat, right, with the meteor that got roughly small planet, if I recall. Granted, you can have Cetrion higher than that, right? I've seen a few different values for Cetrion. I think I even saw one that went down to small planet. But like you said, even if they're relative in AP, it does Akuma no favors.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, Akuma has to touch, right, Shao to basically use the Raging Demon. Shao can use... I mean, he's shown using soul hacks at a distance, so... he kind of... dies.
Yeah.
Fortunately. I will say, personally, I kind of like both relatively, but if we're talking like modern depictions, even with Kuma's... I mean, it's seen mixed opinions on his like modern generation designs, but I still prefer Akuma over like modern Shao Kahn. I'm okay with Shao Kahn in MK9 to a degree, and I'd much rather prefer him before that.
Didn't Phantom do like a small star level calc for Street Fighter EX2 or something? Well, it is non-canon, but didn't she? I swear she did that.
I don't recall what that feat would be. I know there's like a country thing from one of those games, if I recall, but that doesn't really help here.
But they're non-canon.
I don't. Yeah, but like if it gets small star, I don't see that in any shape or form getting like on the episode at all. And at that point, we might start digging into like Brazilian comics. The Brazilian comics. Oh, I love this. Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, right? But I really want to like just read the quote. So, the quote is like during this fight between these two. It says, "Power emanating from the gods combined borders on infinity. Power capable of moving worlds, undoing galaxies. Not even the very explosion that led to the creation of the universe could match it. What hope is there to defeat someone who can resist such a blast?" That is what the Brazilian comics opens us up to.
So,
scaling, I love it.
How would you feel if the animation ends with Shao Kahn punching Akuma so hard he creates a big bang?
I don't know. I really want them to go like balls to the walls, like brutal on the fight, like a bit different than the one we got just recently. More like, you remember how Shao killed like Bison?
Yeah.
Just the brutal that, but like for a good portion of the fight and form like both equally on each other. Make it a Mortal Kombat.
I hope this fight really shows off like the Akumu's just sheer destructiveness, and Shao Kahn can just be as brutal as he.
I really want the Oni transformation to be something special.
Speaking of transformations, we need to have Shao Kahn turn into a Hydra.
No, no,
Yeah.
that didn't exist. That's not that was a dream at best. And revisiting is just going to doom humanity. So
Shao
no point
Kahn's
in
just
even
gonna
discussing
become a
that.
Hydra to fight Oni, and Oni's gonna like hit him once and knock him back into Shao Kahn form. That's how it's gonna go, actually.
If that happens, Nemesis, I am sending the nukes.
I do think they're actually they would. I remember when I made it, like I said, when I was doing my prediction of who everyone's gonna fight from the reveal, and I said Akuma's fighting Shao Kahn. And I said even though Shao Kahn stomps, like there were people saying, how does he stomp? Akuma like destroyed Ayers Rock and like he destroyed an island. And like I do feel like there are people who would go with just the fact that Akuma's feats are visually a lot more impressive, and go like that's why he beats Kahn. And like I'm pretty sure that rhetoric is going to be going around quite a bit. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So.
I honestly don't see this waiting period as bad as Dio Alucard.
Oh no.
Like, I don't know if you were
No, not
aware that waiting period was not. I mean, in like local, it wasn't that bad, but like on other forums, that was not a good waiting period. No,
I didn't
it's
even
not the
need to
worst
see it.
thing I've ever been
I can
through.
imagine because I have seen how the Alucard supporters can be at times.
That's probably a discussion for another time, but yeah, I'm struggling to. I really want to try and come up with something for Akuma here, right? I think the only thing really you could do is just try and argue somehow that he outskills if he can, and he can make direct physical contact, hit the raging demon in, and somehow, some way, by some mechanic or whatever you buy for it, it somehow does the job. And like, if I'm going this as a ratio of like 1 through 100%, I really would only have this something like 30% at best. I really just think Shao Kahn stomps.
So what you're saying is that Kahn ratios Akuma.
I guess we'll go with that.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about from all your research in Mortal Kombat Nintendo?
Well, like I said, I'm not that great at vocally saying the stuff, so if I add it to the G1 blog, then that's going to be there in a better presented format than what I'm doing today.
This
Like
is
I said, I
a
was completely unprepared for this.
This is a shameless plug for all of you. Please come read that blog when it releases. I think it'll be worth time
I will
reading.
not be on it. I wouldn't worry too bad
And
about.
don't
Anyways,
expect Akuma's don't expect Akuma to just be a copy and paste from the one that we did. No,
Yeah, he's gonna get a nerf.
It's being done.
He's gonna get a
No,
nerf.
it's being done from scratch with Tender Love.
He's gonna get nerfed from where he was before.
I mean, you never know. I honestly can't answer that. We just started.
I really can't imagine he's gonna
Anyway.
get above when like all this other a lot of this stuff has been brought to question.
The only thing I can think of is giving him the Gil meteor feat, like the multi-continental one. If you are like go with that calc, just argue that he scales. It's weird though because like you could use Jeddah to scale them to each other. I mean that would be better to use than freaking Universal Jeddah, which I mean they don't scale even if it was legit.
Yeah, I agree that Shao Kahn should probably just win. In order for Akuma to win, you need to give him literally every single benefit of the doubt, and even then, that's not really a guaranteed victory for him. So I don't really see him winning here.
Well, Nemesis, it's been fun, and thank you for having me on. And
Yeah.
well, Ninten, you did great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about how you come across verbally. You explain things really well. You were very concise. I think you did a really good job. I think you're being too hard on yourself.
I would agree with Nemesis.
Okay.
That was
Anyway,
our attempt at a compliment, Nintendo.
Anyway, Nemesis, I'm stealing your terms with Deck.
No. You don't touch my son, you monster.
That will be very, very useful in the future.
Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. I don't think there's much more else we need to say.
Actually, there is one last thing. Can I shill a matchup really quick? Oh, request Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Makima from Chainsaw Man. Please, I beg you. The matchup is literally amazing. Okay, that's all.
Maximo is gonna fight Princess Bubblegum. Deal with it, Cyber.
I'd rather take Haruko. I'd rather take Haruko.
Why are you saying this as if Gojo's not gonna fight Kakashi in the next season? Are you okay? Have you got a fever?
No, we are not. That is the worst timeline. Okay, not the worst timeline. The worst timeline would be something like
Gojo versus
kid you
X-Men.
not. I saw someone suggest Gojo versus Beerus once. Same person also redirected me to a picture of Gojo killing, like a fan picture of Gojo killing Goku.
Oh, God. Is there anything else that we want to add?
Kahn.
Yeah, we're definitely going to try that experiment of having that multi-city block explosion happen with a ghost in the center.
This is a good plan.
That's all I'm going to say.
Speaking of which, the ghost is gonna hate this video because the arguments. I don't think your arguments are that bad. I think you have some good arguments, Ninten. I think you did good. Accept the compliment.
And that's been all three of us. Thank you for listening.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, I'm here now. Hello.
Oh, hi, Ninten. You just showed up. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good one. You can say goodbye if you want to, Ninten.
Bye, people.
Alright.
Adios.
Cyber said goodbye as well.